Hello, hello. Let me know if you guys can hear me.
Okay, let me see the people. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 in. And Caroline, you should have the controls to do a screen share at the bottom.
I sure do.
Okay, perfect, because I don't, because I'm a co-trainer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello. So welcome to our webinar. My name is Monica Sardui. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing, and today we're going to show you the live features in X-1's 2.3 version. As you noticed, you enrolled in a course prior to receiving these live links, and these sessions are going to be recorded and uploaded to the course page. So in case you have any existing staff that miss these live opportunities, or you have new staff that come on board, we want to be able to give you guys a tool to reuse our content. So today in the webinar room, you're going to notice that there's two mechanisms. There's the first one's the chat. So go ahead and introduce yourself, name, title, and company. And then in the second feature, you're going to notice there's a separate feature for questions. We want to use the feature for questions separately to make sure that we answer everything at the end of the session. So we have 5. Yeah, drop in a line in the chat. And then you'll see there's a button on the left-hand side that says questions. So as Caroline goes through the demonstration today, you could drop in your questions there, and I'll be watching that, that feature.
Okay. Hey, Shanna. I'm Barb's. Thank you guys for joining. I think we had Calvin from Cutter on the last one, and this would be our second person from Cutter on. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure you guys can all see my screen. And what you're looking at here is the login screen is going to look the same, but you will see a new option here where it says sign in with Microsoft. That is a new option that we have available now in version 2.3. Okay, you're in Phoenix, Cal's in Colorado Springs. Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. This sign-in option with Microsoft that you see here is something that we added as per request for users to add an extra layer of security. So if your company is currently using Microsoft usernames or has a Microsoft Office package with your current existing account, we can integrate that into X1. So instead of having, for example, creating an X1 username and an X1 password, they would just sign in with the same username and password that they're used to signing into their desktop when they log into their stations for that day. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and log in so you guys can see. One of the first things you'll notice as soon as you log into version 2.3 is that it no longer logs into the old arrival departure board. Now you have we call it the X1 Today page. So it's just a brief overview of kind of what's going on for your day. So you'll see you have a quick snapshot of how many arrivals you have today, how many departures you have today, how many fuelings are out there that are pending to be completed. So for example, if I was just starting my shift here and I see, okay, I have 7 working invoices, this is how many requests I have open, I can already get a sense and idea of how busy I'm going to be that day. Even from here, we also added quick shortcuts to get you to a new request, to a new invoice, and also the quick quote. So currently the quick quote is probably where if you're on 2.2 right now, you only have an option to use quick quote from the request list. Now we've given you the option here to use quick quote right here from the X1 FBO Today page. If you're not using quick quote, I think it's a great feature. I think it's one of the features I would have loved to use when I was working at an FBO. And then you have some quick snippets of how many requests were created for that day, how many refunds were created for that day. One of the reasons we added this dashboard, if you will, for the login is because in our previous versions, logging in, you would log into the schedule board for that day. And what that was doing is because it was a live refreshed data, station, if you will, it was constantly looking for new information. So it made, if you found that maybe sometimes when you would log in the versions you're in now, sometimes it's slow to log in, it's because of that reason, because it was logging into a live scheduling board versus this dashboard is not going to take as much time. So the response time when you log in now in 2.3 is going to be a lot quicker than what you're currently used to seeing. So that's X1FBO today, just a quick dashboard we wanted to give you guys. What I will jump right into is what everyone's been asking for. We spent a lot of time speaking to our users, getting a list of all the tickets that were put in for the schedule board itself. And what you're going to see here is a direct result of all of that. And so basically, after listening to everyone spending, I mean, we had like 30-minute interviews with a lot of folks here, probably even some on this call, about what they wanted from the board. And what we came to the conclusion was, is we just give you guys the settings for you to be able to customize the board how you want to, then it's going to make your life a lot easier in terms of being able to customize exactly how you want to see these boards personalized. So what I just did, and let me go back there to not go too quick here. What I just did here is, you'll notice, okay, now on the main menu, we're going to have X1FBO today, and we're going to have the arrival departure board right underneath it. When you click on the arrival departure board now, you're going to have a couple of options. For those admins that have access, you're going to have access to the arrival departure board settings. So after logging into 2.3, those admins or managers on site, they're going to have access to the arrival departure board settings. Now you'll notice that up here I have a few different board options. I have arrival departure, departures, arrivals. I have a board called new board called Peter, a fun board. These are all boards that I have customized. So we're going to allow you guys to customize up to 5 boards right now currently. You guys can create them however you want. So you can have up to 5 boards that as an admin, you're going to create them how you want, and then everyone will get to see that. So if you have, for example, you want a board that's specifically for like the towers or for maybe your night shift, then you'll create a board, you call it night shift or you call it towers. And you can make that board, you can customize it here on the right-hand side. You're going to be able to customize it with exactly the flight information you want. So if you just want to see, for example, I just want to see the trips that are happening with today and the next day, the next week, the following week. Do you want a rolling 24 hours? So that means that it's going to show you everything from today plus today at 2 p.m. It's also going to show me the next 24 hours. Flights here, do I want to see just arrivals, departures? Do I want to see just the flights that have fuel? I also have options to customize whether I want it landscape, portrait, light mode, dark mode. That was a big one that we got to, that the board was too dark and you couldn't see the fonts on it. And it was really hard, especially if you had the TV in a lobby or ops area where the sun was shining. Certain times of the day, you wouldn't be able to see it. You can even customize the time you want the board to show. So let's say you have an event going on and you want to customize just a window of time for that event, for that specific board that you're making, you can do that here as well. The biggest thing being able to customize the columns in the order that you want and make certain columns active and inactive. So for example, let's say in your FBO, you don't really type the origin. Okay, where is the aircraft coming from? Where is it going to? So maybe the from and to column isn't necessarily important to you. It's a simple drag and drop. All you're going to do is move this over here into the inactive columns, and then you can organize the columns here. So if I want the tail number to show right after the status and then the parking, for example, I could change that and you'll see that that updates automatically, immediately right there on that board. Certain things, another feedback we got was the board was too cluttered. There was too many notes for services. So if you had a lavatory, a hotel, catering, in one trip, currently the boards on our previous versions are going to show you everything. It's going to show you all the service notes, and you may not want to see those service notes on a specific board that you have. So you're going to be able to customize. Do you just want to show the arrival departure board notes for the line service? Do you want to show the service notes as well? Or do you not want to show any notes? We also added a highlight for the current hour. So another feedback we got from a lot of people was that, you know, when you were to come up to the board and look at it, you couldn't tell what was going on at that very moment. You would kind of have to drag your eyes to kind of look through and find the times. With the highlight feature, simple as that, it's a light baby blue highlight. So if, for example, if these 3 flights were happening right now, you would see a light tinted blue behind them. So you can easily see, okay, this is what's happening in this current hour without having to move your eyes too much. Departed and arrived section, if you wanted to say anything that's delayed or departed, anything that has already left in the last 6 hours, in the last 8 hours, I want them to go in a different section. So as you can see, we added a lot of options here to clean the board up, but also allow you guys to keep some of the information that you wanted to keep. One of the things you'll notice here is that you'll see a moon here and a clock. So we added the flight status. So very important. If it's a quick turn, if it's remaining overnight, you weren't able to really see that before in the previous versions unless you were inside the request where it would read short stay or quick turn. Now with that flight status, right from looking at the board or from the request list from the outside view, you can easily tell, okay, this aircraft is staying overnight, this aircraft is doing a quick turn. And the same thing with the tenancy status. So there was the tenancy status before, but you're going to see that now it's on the arrival departure board and on the request list as well. One of the things we added here, which was also one of the feedbacks we received from a lot, was that from a lot of users, was that you had to be logged into a user session in order to see the board. Like if I wanted to display the board on an iPad or on a random monitor, I would have to like have someone log in with a username and a password. So what we've done here is we created a URL. And so what this allows you to do is it creates a URL. It's going to send a code to you, and all you do is copy and paste that URL, and you can have this board active on any browser, monitor, outside if you want in the lobby. And you don't have to worry about it being logged into a user session. So it'll be active, you know, indefinitely until you have closed it, and it'll automatically refresh with any new statuses of services or flights that have changed. So you'll notice up here, this is the general overview of what you're going to see in the arrival departure board settings. So for example, if I click between these different custom boards, I have the option of changing. So let's say this board, I want to name it something. I'm going to name it, let's say, the event board. Maybe you have a certain event going on and you want a specific board. As soon as you hit save, update here at the bottom, that's going to be an option now. So if I were to go back now to our X1 FBO and I log out and log back in, that new board that's called event board is going to be available for any user to select from. So see here now it says event board. And if I click on it, it takes me straight to that board. So let me show you what these boards look like. Okay, so this is what the new refresh board looks like. This is using the light version. You'll notice here that you can actually click on services now. So the board has become interactive to a certain extent where you can click on some services and see if I want to see the notes on this line, I can click here on the note. If I don't want to see it, I can click off of it. Okay. And then let me show you what the dark mode looks like. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is what the dark mode looks like. Zoom in here a little bit for you guys. One of the things you're going to notice here, and probably our biggest update here of part of 2.3, I mean, in addition to the board that everybody's asking to be cleaned up, is the integration with X-1TRX. So if you're not already using X-1TRX, we do have a flight tracking software very similar to a flight tracking software as you guys are probably using now. I'm going to show you what that tracker looks like. That tracking system, we've already put it out into the public. People are using it right now. The benefit of using X-1TRX previous to 2.3 is that if you were on the tracking system, a few things. You were able to see unblocked tail numbers. When I say unblocked tail numbers, like you are really able to see unblocked tail numbers. And the reason why we're able to do that is because we were able to separate whether you want to see the tracker for your private use, for your company's private use, versus a public use. So when you're using a public tracker, and people in your lobby are seeing that tracker, so let's say like FlightAware or maybe TrackPack, because it's a public use, that's why they have to block airplanes. With X-1TRX, because we're able to separate what's public and what's private, you just turn on a switch and you say, okay, this is the tracking I want to use for my internal use, for my FBOs. I'm not going to display it on in a lobby. And because you're able to do that, that allows us to unblock a lot of tail numbers that previously are going to be blocked. So military planes, private aircraft that you're typically used to seeing that's blocked, it will be unblocked for you. So that's one of the benefits of using X-1TRX. And then also if you were using X-1TRX in the tracking system itself, because we knew if you had a request inside of X1 from the tracking system, you would be able to see, okay, of these 10 aircraft coming in, not all of them might be coming to your FBO. They're coming to your airport, but they're not coming to your FBO. But because we knew what requests you had in X1, we were able to show a symbol there to let you know that, okay, of these 10, these 5 are coming into me. So that's how it's been with X-1TRX. Now, the benefit of 2.3 now is that not only do we have X1 integrated to tracks, now we have tracks integrating backwards into X1. So, the days of having to click on every trip, every arrival, and automatically mark it as arrived, or mark it as departed, you'll no longer have to do, because the tracking system is feeding directly into X1. So you'll notice here I have a tracking symbol in blue. This is indicating to me right now that that aircraft is in the air. So very simple color scheme, just like the rest of our pages. Yellow means it's scheduled, so they have a flight scheduled. Blue means it's en route, so it's on its way to you. And then green, if you see the green tracking like you see it down here, that means that's an actual time. So right from here, I could already tell, all right, this has already happened. This is on its way to come in. Think of how much more time you'll save there. And let me show you guys what the tracker looks like in case you haven't seen it before. Here's what the X1 tracking system looks like. So, we kept it very clean with the arrivals on the left-hand side, the departures on the right-hand side. You have a quick snapshot of how many flights you have going on in that current hour, how many arrivals, and the hour of 1400, I have 9 estimated arrivals. The hour of 1500, I have 4 estimated arrivals, just to kind of give you guys a quick snapshot of what's going on during the day. So you'll notice that you have this message here that says this map contains information that's not meant to be displayed to the general public. So right here, I'm already seeing aircraft that would normally be blocked. I'm already able to see those tail numbers. And then if you do want to show X-1TRX over at your lobby, if you want to use the same tracking system, we can have another user where you just log in and you change that. It's just a flip of a switch, and then you can show this to your folks in the lobby. All right, so back to X1, we've covered the arrival and departure board. Again, so let me just walk you through it one more time. After your migration, when you log in, you're gonna see the X1 FBO Today page. So that's gonna be new for you guys. And then over here on the AD board, whoever has an admin access is gonna have access to the settings. That's the person that's gonna be able to click on the settings, create the custom boards as they want it, and then everyone in the organization will have access to see those boards. Okay, I'm going to go over to the request list. We've made some updates in the request list. So the request list, so you guys know, it didn't get a full update with the new technology that the arrival departure board received, but it did get a little bit of a facelift, if you will. Let me minimize this. All right, perfect. So you'll see it looks a little bit different. The request list, the grids still look the same. The columns for the most part are the same, but you'll notice we have the new icons in here. You'll also notice the tracking system integration in here. So, not just in the arrival departure board, but in the request list, that tracking integration is directly here on the request list. So I can see right from here that this plane is en route and it's on its way. Same thing with this plane, it's scheduled. One of the things we also got feedback was that we had a section inside the request where it said CSR notes down here at the bottom. But if I entered a no, I wasn't able to see it from the outside of the grid list view. So what we did was we put that message bubble on the outside. So right from the outside, without having to click inside, I can see which of these requests have a CSR note. So that's going to be anything from my CSRs or my front desk. So for example, this captain, have him call a leasing office after his passengers deplane, stuff that I wouldn't want to share between maybe my front desk that I don't necessarily want to share with the line service outside. You'll also notice that those statuses on the flight summary, so if it's staying overnight, if it's a short stay, the tenancy status, now you're going to have access to see that from the outside of the grid list view. And then we grouped the services. So another feedback we got was that the boards can get very cluttered, especially if maybe you have one request that has a lot of services. Maybe they have a lot of fuelings or a lot of hotels. And so the more bubbles that you had on that request, the more space it would take up in the width of what you were looking at. And it would kind of make what's supposed to be just one row, it would turn it into like 3 or 4 rows. And then that would mess up what you're looking at for the day because you'd have to scroll too much. So we grouped the services and we found that it has benefited a lot to be able to group these services. So for example, if you can see here, instead of having 2 icons, individual icons for oil, now I just have 1 icon for oil with a counter here that says there's 2 services. So if I click on it, I'll click on and I'll see I have 2 oil services. I can complete one on its own. Okay, and then the other one is still going to say it's pending. It's going to take the status of the lowest priority. So until they're all green and completed, this main icon is going to stay as yellow because there's something that still needs to be done there in that flight. You'll also notice that we kind of cleaned up the actions column here. So instead of having a button for every single thing, so one for print, one for email, one for actions. Now, if you click on the drop down, you have all that information, but you just have it here nice inside of the drop down. So I can see, if I need to close the request, if I need to send an email, if I need to print it, arrival departure board notes as well. And something that you'll see here is that we made the invoicing button here as the $ itself. And if I click on the invoicing button, I can click into each one of these invoices. So if I just click here, it'll take me straight into the invoice. But I can also see from this view, so in this case, I have a request that has multiple services. There's fuel, there's oxygen, nitrogen, or there's 2 oxygens and one canceled nitrogen. There's already some invoices for this trip. If I click on the $, now I can see, okay, this working invoice has the oxygen services, and then this working invoice has the fuel. So that's something that you weren't able to see in the past. You would just see if 2 invoices were created, but you wouldn't know which service was already on what invoice until you actually clicked into the invoice and opened it up to see what was there. So that's something that's new on the request list that you guys will notice. As far as the request list, we didn't do a whole lot because we are going to be updating this entire page and using some new technology to make it look a lot nicer. We're going to be doing the same kind of user feedback we did for the arrival departure board, but we're going to do it with the request list. That pretty much sums up the new features that you will see on the request list. The main thing being the grouping of the icons, the tracking system, being able to see the CSR notes, and then the invoicing, being able to specify, in an invoice what services went onto what invoice. You'll notice that. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'll take a quick pause here. What we'll do is we'll get into the next features. And these next features is more to get a feedback from you guys. We had a couple of ideas for some FBOs that we took action on, and it seemed to be helpful in those FBOs. So we're going around showing it on these webinars to see if anyone else would find use of it. We seem to think there's a lot of good use of it, but definitely want to get your guys' feedback on that. I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second and reshare because it looks like my corner up here froze. All right. Okay, so before we get into the next thing, I want to ask you guys, are any of you guys using our single point dispatch feature? And I'll ask that on the chat. Okay. I'll give you guys a moment there to respond if you're still on.
We have 7 in the room, so they might not know what it is.
Okay. All right. So let me reshare my screen here. Okay. All right. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
It's perfect.
Okay. So if you can still see my screen, maximize it here. One question we kept getting over and over again for SinglePoint was that a lot of people are using SinglePoint. The CSRs are putting in the services that are being requested. Outside the line guys have their SinglePoint device and they're able to see all the pending labs, all the pending GPUs to use to get completed. And in certain busier FBOs or when there's event days, at some point they got so used to not listening to radio chatter that they were just going off the mobile device and seeing what's next on the list. So I have 5 labs that are in yellow and they're just going off the list. What's next on the list? Currently with X1, the way that list is organized is that it is showing you the list of pending services according to what was put in last. So if I just put in a fuel request right now, that's what's going to show at the top of my list because that's how it was originally built to show you kind of what was last put in. So one of the requests we kept getting was there any way to organize that list so that we can have a priority in the pending services from the SinglePoint app? So if I were to tell my fueler, hey, here's your SinglePoint, just go off the list of pending fuelings or go off the list of pending labs and be able to organize it, because just because the plane that came in now asked for fuel and there's a plane that came in 2 hours ago asked for fuel, it doesn't mean that the one from 2 hours ago needs the fuel in a pressing more way than the one that comes in now, because the one that comes in now, maybe they have owners or someone showing up, they're quick turning, versus the one that came in 2 hours ago and asked for fuel, maybe they're staying overnight, there's no rush to get fuel for them. So being able to organize that, we did this almost like it's a drop down option, if you will. So what you're looking at right here is, it's called the SinglePoint Plus. And it's showing me these are all my pending services that are in yellow. So essentially the same pending service list I would see on the SinglePoint device. And if I want to dispatch these, I want to move these over, for example. All right, these are all my pending fuelings in yellow. These are how my guys are seeing it outside right now. But instead of having 632 Bravo Papa be completed first, I want 651 Quebec Sierra be completed first. I'm literally just gonna, with my mouse, grab it, drag and put it to the top, and it'll reorganize the list on the SinglePoint so that now if they're looking at the SinglePoint list, they're going to be seeing it in order of how it gets of what the priority should be. So, and you can, we added this for any services that you guys have on the SinglePoint device. So if you have avgas, lavatory, you can determine what products or items you want to have in the dispatch feature where you can organize and prioritize this. So if this is something you currently think you may need, or maybe you want to try it out for an event, let us know. Actually, this is available now in the current version already in 2.2. So if this is something you want sooner than when you guys actually get migrated, let us know and we can let you guys try it out. And so what we'll do is we'll jump into the last part of the webinar here. So we covered the arrival departure board, the X1 FBO today, some of the new changes you can see and expect on the request list. And we're going to jump into I'm here. before we do, there is one feature I want to point out for you guys that are still there is quick turns, short stays. Previously, you guys would have to select when it was a quick turn or a short stay. We added the ability now for you guys to determine what is a quick turn and what is a short stay to your organization. So when you migrate to 2.3 in the FBO profile here, there is a section called Requests tab. You're going to select on that tab. And here you're going to say, for example, if you guys consider a quick turn 15 minutes in your organization, change that over to 15 minutes. And now it's going to automatically change that flight status for you. So if you have a plane coming in and the arrival and the departure is within those 15 minutes, it'll automatically give you that flight status of a quick turn. And then the same thing with short stay. What do you guys consider a short stay? So a short stay is an hour, a few hours, however you guys consider a short stay. You'll be able to determine what that is. And then remain overnight, where you're just going to use one date to the next date. So if it's coming in today and it's leaving tomorrow or any following days, it'll automatically change to remain overnight. So a lot of data input that you guys are currently doing in 2.2, marking aircraft arrive, clicking on a short stay or the quick turn flight summary, a lot of that's going to go away. So we do expect you guys to have some freed up time moving into the 2.3 version. Okay, and then the next piece I'm going to talk about is called X1 I'm Here. So a few FBOs have this already, and this is something we came up with just coming from FBOs ourselves and understanding how busy things can get at the desk, and maybe not even for busy FBOs, just a way to keep track. Your folks already have to keep track of a lot, aircraft coming in, fueling, services going on. So some of the things we notice at the front desk that happens a lot is that you have vendors such as drivers coming to check in to pick up a passenger, right? So they come to your front desk, hey, I'm here to pick up this passenger. Can you tell me where the flight is? Usually involves someone at your desk or behind your desk, because usually it has to be someone from your organization to give them that information. And then the driver, okay, here's my phone number. You write it down on a notepad. Maybe you have a list for it already where you're keeping it. So we took that and just automated this process for you guys. Think of similar like a QR code when you walk into like a restaurant or you're ordering your meal. Your drivers, you could essentially have any kind of iPad or tablet up in your lobby in a certain corner and put it as a driver check-in or put it as a catering check-in, whatever kind of vendor check-in you want. You'll have this QR code up at that iPad or kiosk, wherever you want to keep it. And you guys are free to select whatever kind of iPad or kiosk you want to use and how you want to use it. We have some we can offer, but anything that works or suits your lobby and whatever way you guys are free. So they're going to use their phone. They're going to scan this QR code. Okay, it's going to, on their phone, right from their phone, it's going to take them to a section on their phone where they're going to be able to write just that, the stuff that your CSRs would normally be having to write. They're going to be able to write, what tail number they're coming in for, what passenger name they're coming in to pick up, what kind of vehicle they have, if they are in a black Suburban, if they're a car and driver service, or if they're a personal pickup, maybe it's a friend of someone that's coming in. They're going to be able to click on that. So this is what it would look like here. And then once they check in, that's the tracking system. I'll click up here. I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay, once they go about checking in and putting in the details of their, who they're coming to pick up, your team inside is going to be able to see all that. So they're going to have a dashboard. Okay, load here in just a second. They're going to have a dashboard that's going to say, all right, they have 9 drivers waiting, and it's going to show their phone number. Here we go, for example. Do we have a driver, aircraft 15 minutes out? Do we have a driver in the lobby for 2000 Alpha? I can just check this portal. Yeah, I have a driver. This is the driver's phone number. Hertz provided it, or it's a personal business, whatever they typed in, who are they coming to pick up, the lead passenger. And not only that, the benefit of having this now that you have 2.3 is that the integration with the tracking system. So once that driver checks in and puts their phone number in the kiosk to let you know that they're here for this tail number, when that tail number is en route and it's 10, 15 minutes out, it's going to automatically send a text message to that driver to say, hey, this tail number is 10, 15 minutes out. That'll allow them to maybe prepare, get ready to go through the gate so that you're not having to call them. So here you have a lot of data you can guys use to help make those things that happen behind the front desk that take away a lot of time from your CSRs. Automating this, letting the drivers check in on their own, giving your team this dashboard where they can see everybody that's checked in, whether it's for a driver, a catering service, who's ramp side, who's still waiting in the lobby, which of those have already been completed. You'll be able to see that. And this is something that your team doesn't have to manage at all. This is just a QR code you guys are putting up in the lobby. The drivers are doing the rest, and you guys just have the benefit of seeing what's going on without having to have someone behind the desk tracking all this information. So we think it's a great feature to add to your lobby. Let us know what you guys think. For X1 I'm Here, there's a lot of other things we want to do with this kind of technology where we're using text messages to tell drivers and people or pilots, the plane is 15 minutes out. Having that kind of technology is going to be very powerful in the stuff that we build in the future. So let us know what you guys think. And with that said, that concludes the 2.3 version overview of the new features that are coming out. So what I would like to do is at this time just turn over the floor and just allow you guys to ask whatever questions you have about what you should expect after you migrate to 2.3. Is there, let me see, Monica, is there a way to unmute people? Well, they would probably have to unmute themselves, right? That'd be kind of weird to unmute someone.
Not for the webinar format.
Okay.
The webinar format is strictly through the questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, if you guys have any questions, we'll allow you guys a few minutes if you're still there to write any questions you have on the chat, and we'll try and answer it as best as we can.
Okay, well, as you notice, 2.3 has so many convenience tracks integrations. So if you don't already have X-1TRX flight tracker, I'm going to be sending a follow-up email so that you guys can have a free 14-day trial of it so that you and your team can try it out even before you migrate. And then just a friendly reminder, if you need any X-1SinglePoint devices, we do have a shop at x1fbo.com. And if you already have X-1SinglePoint devices, but want to learn about the upgrade that Caroline was discussing, the dispatch, I'll be more than happy to set up a separate demonstration for you and your team. And as you've noticed, we've had a lot of course developments, and we're doing a lot of one-to-one training. So we're also offering X1 Approach in-person training. These are great for your clients who have been with us maybe for a long time and not taking advantage of all the features that they're currently paying for, or maybe you just want to learn more about the smarter way to run your FBO. There's always room for improvement. So we're here for you in that capacity as well. Thanks, Barbara.
Absolutely. Thanks, Barbara. All right, so we'll go ahead and close this webinar session. You guys will have access to the recording if you missed anything or you want to send it out to anyone else. And then our last webinar we're going to have for this version 2.3 is going to be next week. I forget the time. I think it's more for the Pacific folks, right?
Yeah, we have one more webinar next week. And it's for those of you on the West Coast.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any other questions at this time, we'll go ahead. Could you please send information for in-person training? Absolutely. I don't see the name of the person who wrote that message. Are you able to see it, Monica?
Yeah, it's Barbara.
Oh, Barbara. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Well, and again, after you guys migrate, if you still want to join one of these webinars and you have more questions, or if you just have some questions and want to reach out to our support team, you know that they're always available. We hope you guys like the new features, and we look forward to getting a lot of your feedback with the new version, because it's just helping us build our roadmap down the line to know what we should focus our resources on now that we're getting a little bit bigger and we have a little bit more room to make new features. We want to make sure the ones that we're doing have a big impact on the entire network of FBOs, and that, you know, we're creating stuff that is going to just make everyone's life easy. So we look forward to hearing your feedback, and we appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye.